So this is Noni. It's a beautiful plant and very unique. You can find Noni in many tropical areas around the world. And the plant has a lot of uses, but the particular part of Noni that has gotten the most press lately is the fruit. And the fruit is supposed to have a lot of health benefits for you. So if you live in a tropical area, you might consider growing your own Noni. But if you don't, you can probably find Noni products in your local health food store. Morinda citrifolia is native from Southeast Asia to Australia. The fruit is known as Noni in the Hawaiian and Marquesas Islands. Many other islands and nations in the Pacific Ocean use similar words, including nen, nin, non, nono, and nonu. It's known by a lot of other names in other languages. In English, the fruit is also known as great morinda, Indian mulberry, beech mulberry, and cheese fruit. The name Indian mulberry is reflected in Noni's genus name Morinda. Morus is the genus of the actual mulberry, and Inda refers to India, presumably because European botanists first came across this plant in India. Noni's species name, citrifolia, refers to the leaves or foliage of some varieties being similar to citrus. Noni is in the coffee or Rubiaceae family, which means it's also related to gardenia, ixora, pentas, and several plants used for dyeing fabrics. Noni is an unusual and beautiful plant. It can reach 30 feet tall and has large, dark green, glossy, and deeply veined leaves. Noni's distribution seems to be only limited by climate. Temperatures below 40 degrees Fahrenheit can kill the plant. So this is our Noni plant. We cut it way back a few months ago. It's doing fine now. And Noni's actually rather cold sensitive. It can die when temperatures are under 40 degrees. And this particular plant, as you might be able to see, has quite a bit of leaf drop. And that's from the cold that we just had a few days ago. The leaves just dropped off while they were green. And there is some other damage evident in some of these leaves. This looks like cold damage too. That would have dropped off very soon. Noni grows on beaches, in wet and very dry areas, in areas with brackish water, and is often the first colonizer along new lava flows. Noni can grow in a wide range of soil types, including fertile and infertile, and acidic and alkaline soils. It can grow in full sun or partial shade. Noni can also withstand strong winds and fire. Although it typically doesn't threaten existing ecosystems, in some areas, Noni is treated as a weed. Since its root system is usually rather extensive and new plants can develop from remnants of its root system, Noni can be difficult to eradicate. Seeds are unusual in that they have air pockets within them, so the seeds can actually stay viable for months in the ocean. Seeds can take a year to germinate, so rooting cuttings is the typical method to propagate Noni. But you can hasten germination by lacerating seeds manually or subjecting them to quick pulses in a blender. When seeds are treated this way, germination can take 20 days to 4 months. If Noni plants are needed as a windbreak, it's best to use the plants grown from seeds so the plants have taproots. Other agricultural uses of Noni plants include supporting vine fruits, providing shade for coffee plants, and preventing soil erosion. So this particular fruit we've been watching, and it looks like it's at a good stage to pick. This tip of the fruit stays green the longest, and that is barely green now. So it's a little fruit, but it will ripen up and taste just like every other noni. It's usually a good idea to take the fruit off at about this stage because they drop, here's the side that's a little bit more ripe, they drop on the ground and start to get eaten very soon after this stage. So often we ripen fruit at this stage off of the tree so that it can be nice and ready to use and not sampled by insects. Noni plants can produce fruit year-round. Fruits vary in size from 5 to 10 centimeters long and 3 to 4 centimeters wide. The fruit is white when it's ready to pick and turns translucent white when it's ready to eat. Another indication, a not so subtle indication of ripeness, is ripe fruit has a very strong fetid smell which is somewhat reminiscent of strong cheese. Noni is a compound fruit, or more accurately, a multiple fruit. Many flowers form fruits that fuse together to form a larger fruit. Pineapple and mulberry are other examples of multiple fruits. Historically, noni was considered a staple food in a few Pacific Island nations, but it was most commonly considered a starvation fruit to be consumed only during famine. In some cultures, the seeds were roasted and eaten.
To me, my difficulty with noni, and it's not a terrible fruit once you get into it, once you bite into it, the flavor actually isn't bad. The smell is just a little bit off-putting. And so, for me, the difficulty with noni is that it defies my expectations of what that smell means. Because to me, when I smell a cheese, I want to bite into a piece of cheese. That's my expectation. And with noni, you don't necessarily get that. You get a fruit, which is a bit of a mind bender because you get a juicy kind of, not sweet fruit, it's more of a savory fruit, which is also a little bit of a difficulty because when I bite into a fruit, I kind of have the expectation that it's going to be sweet, it's going to be sugary, it's going to be something that I want to eat more of. And noni isn't that fruit at all. The consistency is not bad. It's actually not a bad fruit to eat. And like I said, the flavor itself is actually pretty mild. The best thing that I can compare it to is in India. There's a drink that they make, and I'm not sure what it's called, but it's made with grain and some herbs, and it's a savory drink, and that's something that I had never experienced before. In the West, you have drinks that are sweet, you have drinks that are sour, you have drinks that are watery, but savory isn't generally something you get in a drink. And so my immediate reaction to that is have a sip. Oh, that's not what I expected. I'll put that glass down. Thank you very much. It's been wonderful. But it's not the drink that's bad. The drink isn't bad. It's the way that I'm perceiving it, because I have expectations about what it's going to be based on my previous experience. Noni is very much the same way. Now that I know what noni tastes like, I have the expectation of what that is, and so it's not the initial surprise. I understand some people really enjoy eating noni, and I think it's like anything else. Once you understand, or you can wrap your head around the consistency versus the smell, the texture versus your expectation, then I think it's not bad. The smell itself is just something that one has to get used to, I suppose. It's like eating a Limburger or eating another one of the strong cheeses. It's not off-putting. It's just not generally a smell that you would get from a fruit. And I think that's one of the biggest problems with noni, is that we all have an expectation, or maybe not we all, maybe just me, I have an expectation of what fruit should be. I have this category called fruit, and this is the way it's supposed to be, based on my limited experience. And Noni is way, way, way outside of that realm of familiarity. And so for me, that's kind of the neat thing about Noni. I think if you grew up with Noni, it would be fine. It wouldn't be a problem at all. But having not grown up with it culturally, it defied all of my expectations as to what a fruit should be. And in that way, I'm actually kind of glad that I had it. Would I have it every day? No, I wouldn't. Is it one of my favorite fruits? Probably not. But experientially, I think I've had something new. And in retrospect, I've thought about Noni a lot more than I've thought about many of the other fruits that I've eaten in my lifetime, simply because, I don't know, for some reason I feel obligated to kind of wrap my head around it, to figure out why it was that I didn't like it, because intrinsically there's nothing bad about the fruit. It's my own expectation that gets in the way of my enjoyment. So yeah, that's pretty much what I have to say about Noni.
Noni is one of the most important medicinal plants in Polynesia. For over 2,000 years, it has been used in folk medicine. Some traditional cultures actually identify 3 varieties of Noni. One has small leaves and many small fruits. The bark and roots of this variety are used to produce dye for fabric. The fruit of another variety has the well-known putrid odor and is often used for juice. A third variety produces fruit with little or no odor and has long, relatively thin, and highly medicinal leaves. These leaves are reported to combat infection and reduce inflammation. Before the leaves are wrapped around wounds, they are heated so that they will stick to themselves. Also, the leaves can be pounded and then applied to the site of injury, or even to reduce fever. Noni is also used to treat malaria, high blood pressure, sore throats, hernias, toothaches, abscesses, rheumatism, ulcers, tuberculosis, intestinal worms, boils, stomach aches, diabetes, stings from stonefish, and vitamin A deficiency. It's also used as a laxative and an insecticide. Noni juice is a rich source of antioxidants and has become a very important health food. Although Noni has not been studied extensively, laboratory research indicates that Noni seems to have antioxidant, immune-stimulating, and tumor-fighting properties. Noni might be effective against certain types of cancer, kidney problems, diabetes, and tumors.